Hello all, welcome you to one more session in Tableau where we are going to spend some time to understand the scope and direction in table calculations. So table calculation is, you might be wondering we have learned a lot of calculation as a part of Tableau because anyways, analysis is all about calculations and computations, right? So how efficiently you perform your computations and calculations, you're going to get a better insight from the data. So having said that, yes, of course, we have dealt with lots and lots of type of complications, I mean, calculations in your Tableau. However, this type of table calculations is something which is taking up a very important place when we have to understand the various concepts in Tableau because of the reason that it provides, in fact, a lot of utility to the users. So now what we need to basically understand is that what do I mean by table calculations? What exactly I can do if I have to term that as a table calculations? So this concept could be understand very easily by going into our Tableau environment. So let me just go back to my Tableau environment before I just run through the slides. Just let me get inside my Tableau environment. I'm just connecting my Superstore itself. And what you see here is I just wanted to get a feel of this one. It's nothing. You very well know that there will be some kind of fields which will be there. So once I place some fields, I just double click some field. Okay. So click on the, once I keep the fields inside this, okay, so now I'm getting a value here. So what I'm getting here, this is what you call it as a visualization. Now what I wanted to do is that I want to locally do some transformations with the values that I'm seeing here. Okay, understand this point very clearly. I just wanted to perform some transformations locally in the data that I see in my visualization. Okay, so this is what is the meaning of a table calculations. Okay, so I just wanted to make some kind of calculations with these values. Okay, simply this is what you mean it as a table calculation. Now let's get inside the slides and try to understand what are the various concepts associated with table calculation. Now you got an idea that, okay, so in your pane, like in your visualization point, what you're having is that you have some values, and on that value you wanted to perform some kind of transformation. It may be like finding the percentage of the sales value which you saw, or finding the difference of the from the previous sales to the current sales. If you wanted to find out the difference, it could be any of these kind of transformations. All of these transformations that you're going to perform using the table values is something which you will perform locally. Okay, so the transformation that you're going to perform will be completely based on the current visualization. So that's the meaning. That's why I use the word locally. Okay, so when you have to perform these sort of computations or calculations, this is what I call it as a table calculation. Okay, so you might be wondering as why will I have to go ahead and perform these table sort of calculations. I showed you one example itself. The example was that I have a category and I had a sales, right? So I had some sales value. So we will not be having like enough patience, and also we will not many of us will not be good in figures also. So what happens is that, no one will have the patience to look into those larger values which is available in sales, and then to identify who is ranking first in terms of sales. Okay, so instead of having that big numbers of sales, if I'm having a ranking, again my process of seeing the data and getting the insight from the data is going to be easy for me. All right, so that's, so what exactly you will try to do now is that for that sales table which I showed you, in that sales table I would like to add something called as a ranking, so which will have a number from 1 to, right? So when I have this ranking, my process will become easier. Okay, So to understand this in a better manner, what I mean to say is that, see, what right now you have it in your uh, window is that something like this you have it, right? So something like this you have it, and you are having here the category, and here you are having the sales. But these values are somewhere in the numbers of lakhs, or it's lakhs, 10 lakhs, something like this is written. So I cannot look into those values and then I can get a conclusion about who has scored the highest sales. Instead, what I wanted is that I will just compute for the rank for this sales. Okay, for this sales I'll compute the rank. So using this data, for this data I will perform some transformation. Okay, so and then I'm going to have a ranking. So if you have a ranking, it is better than looking into the sales. This is the whole idea which I'm talking about. Okay, so now how do I do that? Okay, so this is what I call it as a table calculations in your Tableau. I hope you got the concept of table calculation. And as I said, so the necessity for table calculations, or some of the commonly used table calculations, is that you try to transform the values to a rank, or that, or other thing is like you try to transform the value to show the running totals, or you transform the values to show some percentage of total. So these are some kind of transformations that you would be working with the table calculations. Okay, I hope you understood the necessity and what is table calculations. Now that we want to understand few more concept. Okay, so these are some of the common table calculations that you can perform it, and this is just a click option. You don't have to worry about any mathematics. All of these options will be available in Tableau itself, just that you have to go ahead and choose the corresponding fields and perform the computation. Okay, so you don't have to worry about how am I going to do each of these operations. Okay, so that's fine. Now what we need to one more thing that we need to understand is that most of the cases when we will use table calculations means you will perform table calculations only if your problem is having a ranking, recursion, or moving calculations, or inter-row calculations is expected. Only when you have a situation like that, only you are supposed to perform, or you will go for a table calculations. So this is a kind of flow chart which will help you to understand when to go for a table calculations. So this could probably, you can take it as a guideline or a checklist which you can keep it if you wanted to perform a table calculation. So if the considered problem is having I mean, it's demanding you to perform some ranking or recursion or moving calculation, then you are going to directly go to a table calculation. So if in case, if you do not have any such requirement, then you need to verify if you have all the data values that is required for the visualization. Unless and until if you do not have the data values, you obviously cannot perform any kind of visualization, of course your table calculations. Okay, so if it is yes, then the layout is matching to the table calculations or not, you need to verify it. If it is yes, then you will perform a table calculation. Otherwise, if that is no, then you will check about the granularity of your data, whether it is going to be a LOD kind of granularity that you are looking at. We will look into what is LOD in the later session. Okay, so but as of now, what you can think is that the level of granularity is like, very basic level. Like for example, if you wanted to find out, just I said, right, you have the sales, and with the sales you wanted to find the running total. So the level of granularity is very simple and it is very straightforward. So when you have such type of requirements, you can directly go for table calculations. If it is not, then you have to use a LOD expressions. So this is just a flow, basic flow that you can remember it, so that your table calculations will become very, very easy for you, and also you can understand how the table calculation flow is working. Okay, okay, so of course this is something which is theoretically needs to be understood, and also this is a kind of checklist that you need to do it. But right now, what we need to concentrate specifically is that, as I said previously itself, our focus on this session is completely to understand about the scope and the direction in table calculations. First of all, let us try to understand what is the meaning of a scope and what is the meaning of a direction. All of you will be knowing the scope in terms of programming, right? So say for example, any programming language, if you take, okay, let us just clear this one. Okay, so you take any programming language, say for example, I'm writing it as there is a main function. Okay, and there is a main function. Inside this main function, I'm writing something. Okay, so here I'll have a variable like int a. Okay, so now what will be the scope of this variable? The scope of this variable, this is actually a global variable. The scope of this variable is it could be used anywhere in the function. Okay, so this is the meaning of a scope. So what you have got, what is the idea is that scope denotes how much valid you are for a particular place. Okay, that's the meaning of a scope. So now in a programming, variable takes up the position of a scoping. Okay, but when it comes to table, what could be a scope? Okay, so let's try to understand in a table what could be a scope. It is nothing but which portion of a table is going to be included for your calculation. Okay, so what do I mean by that? It is simple. Okay, so now I have this Tableau environment. The simple snippet is there. In this snippet, you are able to see some things are there in my column shelf and some things are there in my row shelf. We do not have to worry about what is there. What right now we are trying to understand is what is the meaning of a scope. Okay, so what is the definition of a scope is that which portion of a table could be used for the calculation. Okay, should be included in the calculation. So you can select the portion of a table that can be included in a calculation in three ways basically. Okay, either you can include the complete table is itself for the calculation, or you could include a pane of a table for calculation, or you could include a cell of a table for a calculation. This is what is the meaning of a scope. So when I'm talking about scope in table calculations, it is nothing but a table, pane, and a cell. That's what I say it as a scope in table calculations. So now what you see with this orange line, right? So this denotes that complete table will be taken for the computations or the calculations. Okay, so this is the scope. This is the complete scope. If you wanted to take it, you can take it. Or otherwise, if you want to specify a pane, so something which is given in a blue color, right? Whatever is being denoted in your blue color. So this is what you call it as a pane, which means that if I say 2014, I'm going to completely take this 2014 pane and then I'm going to perform some computation. In that sense, I can take, or otherwise a specific pane I wanted to include it for the calculation, I can do that. Or otherwise, individual cell calculation also could be performed. Okay, so when I talk about a table calculations, scope plays a significant role. Scope denotes what are the values that is going to be included for the calculation, to be very simple. Okay, so either it is going to be in the form of a table or it is going to be in the form of a pane or specific rows or specific columns. If you wanted to specify, can specify it, or otherwise a specific cell is going to be included for the calculation. That is also possible. That's the meaning of a scope. Now the next point is that direction. Okay, for which of the fields you are going to perform the calculation denotes your direction. Okay, so there are multiple ways that you can use it for actually performing the calculations in your Tableau. So there are multiple things that you can do it. Okay, so say for example, you when you say it is as a table across, it will I mean the calculation is going to be happening across the length of the table. Okay, and once it is completed, it is going to restart after the every partition. See, the partition is nothing but the direction. That's what you call it as a partitioning. Okay. So maybe you could say that the dimensions which is going to define the scope of a data. Okay, so that is what you call it as a partitioning fields. Okay, so simply partitioning field will break up the view into multiple subviews, or it is going to break up into multiple subtables, and then the table calculation will be applied to the marks within each partition. Okay, simply if I have to perform the calculation for the whole table, if I have to perform the calculation, and if it is for the whole table, then the scope is whole table. Okay, now how do I want to perform the calculations? Means I wanted to perform the calculation as a table across. Okay, which means this way it needs to perform for the first partition. This is what you call it as a first partition, and then it needs to restart the calculation for the second partition, and it needs to continue. Okay, so this sort of thing is what you call it as a direction, and the direction could be decided or it could be done in multiple ways. The first way that we are talking about is that table across. So it is going to traverse across the length of the table, and then it is going to restart after every partition. Okay, so this way also you can, I mean, the direction could be a table across direction, or it could be a table down direction, which means that it is going to compute from top to bottom. Okay, once it has completed from the top to bottom, for the next partition it is going to restart. Okay, so this way table down works. Then you have table across then down. Okay, so which means it is going to go completely, I mean, across the length of the table it is going to go, and then it will come down to the, I mean you can see here, right? It's a zigzag position. So it is coming down here, after which it will restart the partition. Okay, so this way also you can perform your table calculation. Okay, so this is one more direction, and then down then across, that also is possible. So it completely come down, then go upstairs, and then it is going to continue. Okay, so whatever we have seen completely, we worked with a complete table. Correct, the scope was complete table, and with that complete scope of the table, we analyzed on the different directions that could be used along with the complete table. Likewise, for a pane also you can perform it. So if you take a pane, you have the pane down, which means the a complete pane it is taking, and then it is coming down. Okay, and it performs the computation in this manner. Similarly, for a pane, it do have a across then down. Okay, so you have a specific snippet of the data, and you wanted to apply some calculation for that specific snippet of the data. You can do that also. That's what you call it as a pane, and the type of direction also could be decided by you. Okay, which is again across then down. Okay, and then you have down and then across, that is also possible. Okay, so this is about the panes. Now in a cell you can actually perform within a single cell only, you can perform. Okay, when it comes to cell, it is actually just a single cell, you can perform the calculations. And then yeah, so that is one thing that you could probably do it. And then finally what you need to do is that, of course I spoke about all of the different options that is available with a scope and direction in table calculations. Now it's time for us to go ahead and understand how it is actually used. So let's get inside our Tableau environment. I'm just dropping these two down. Okay, and then yeah, I'm just dropping these two down. And now what we have is a simple superstore data is there. We are trying to understand what we are trying to understand is, of course, how this scope and direction is working. This is what we are trying to understand. So maybe let me just take up the dimensions, and then we can go ahead. So I'm just going to concentrate on the order date alone. Okay, so I'm just keeping my order date. In my order date, let me just keep only the, you know, quarter data, let me just keep the quarter data, and also the monthly data, let me keep it. So I'm getting this one. Then similarly, the order data itself, I'll keep it in my columns also. So now what I have to do is that I just wanted to analyze based on the sales. So I'm keeping my sales in the marks card. Then I'm going to convert this as a text. Now what you will see is this, the different values that you will be seeing it, right? So now what I wanted to perform is that I wanted to perform some kind of table calculations. So what I have to do to perform a table calculation is that simple. Just click on this one. Okay, then you have something called as a add table calculation. Just click on this add table calculation. You can understand very well the directions that I was talking about is all lying in these options. So table across, table down, I'll just move this here so that you can understand the you can see what is happening here. Okay, so table across, table down, all these different types of options is already available. So what is the calculation type that you wanted to perform? So you can choose on what is the different type of calculations that you wanted to perform. So if I will keep it as a rank, okay, and the option that was selected was table across, you can understand that the complete ranking is completely done now. So if I will, you can also say that whether it is going to be in an ascending or a descending order. So that also you can specify it, and also what should be the competition and what should be the dense value or what should be the unique value. Anything could be specified. Okay. So once you choose how you wanted your calculations to be performed, based on that, you are going to use these options, the directions you are going to use. So suppose if I will use a table down, you can understand how this variations of ranking is happening. Okay. Similarly, if I will go to table across then down. Okay. So the type of calculations it is varying, and the ranking how it is giving you, you can understand that very clearly. Okay. So this is the thing. And if I will select only a cell, you can see that every cell is being marked as a 1 because it is going to happen for each of the cell. Okay. So each of the cell will be considered independently. So that's why, that's the reason each of them it is getting a same value. And then you can even select your specific dimensions also. So like, you wanted to perform only for the quarter of order date. Okay. So you can do that as well. Okay. So you can specify that and then you can do the table across. All right. So this is what is the meaning of your uh, scope and the direction. I hope you got an idea on what is the meaning of a scope and direction in your Tableau. And here, if you see here, you see a triangle mark here, right? So whenever you see a triangle mark here, it means that you can perform a table calculations. If it is, if a particular field isn't suitable for performing a table calculations, you will not find this triangle also. Okay. So this is what is the meaning of a scope and direction in Tableau. I hope you got an idea on how the scope and direction in Tableau works actually. And so just we have seen the basics of table calculation, restricting our discussion only in the form of uh, how the scope and direction could be used to perform a table calculations. So in the next session, even though it is a very basic concept, it serves as a definite foundation to understand the table calculations. So in the next session, we will just explore on how we can work with different types of calculations using your table calculations. So that's all I have for this session. Thank you.